Hello guys and welcome back to some more World of Tanks. Today I'm bringing you a two-parter. I'm going to do reviews of the collaborations that World of Tanks have done. And that is themed tanks and operations and things like that, and crew and things. So like recently there was the Turtles one, and we've had in the past G.I. Joe, that kind of thing. I'm going to review those, but from the perspective that they are in the game now, there's nothing we can do about it. I personally would prefer if they didn't exist at all, but they are here, and that's how I'm going to review them, as you know, because in all honesty, if I gave my honest review from that from my own perspective, they'll probably be 0. All of them would be 0 or 1 out of 10, because I don't think they should really be in the game. But like I said, they are, and that's how I'm going to go about reviewing them. So, like I said, it's going to be a two-parter. I'm going to review as many as I can remember. As far as I can remember, there's about 10. There could be a couple more that I've missed. And I'm not really going in any particular order. So yeah, that's what these two videos are going to be about. And speaking of which, if you do like the video, give it a like and subscribe, guys. And in the comments, tell me which ones are your favourites or least favourites, or just say, or also say how you much prefer they weren't in the game at all. In the background, I'm going to be giving you some random gameplays. Like I said, I've not got time to play at the moment. I'm going down the new Chinese heavy line, so I'm just putting some games out in some of the collaboration tanks without getting any decent games, really. It is what it is, but it's just something to watch as I'm talking. Right, so the first one, and technically I suppose the Girls and Pants was the first one, which came out like when the game first came out, but it wasn't like a collaboration that we know now, and they've redone it recently, so I'll probably go for Girls and Pants later. But WWE was the first one as far as I can remember. And this was back in the day, I think it was just after 6.0. They changed the garage, and everyone wasn't particularly happy with the garage. And then suddenly, we had this update. We come in, and what do we see? No garage at all, really. We see an arena with cheering crowds and a ring for WWE. And, of course, we had our tank in the middle of the ring. This was... Back in the day, this was very shocking. A lot of people complaining, and we had no choice at that point. It was just literally, that is what you're getting. You can't choose between whether you have it in the game or not. It's here, and you're gonna have to deal with it. So that was very upsetting for the majority of us. And now, obviously, this was just the way it was, unfortunately. Now, in hindsight, it wasn't so bad. They've gotten a lot worse since, but at that time, it was like, what the hell is going on? I want to play tanks. I do not want to play a wrestling game. Why are you making us see this ring and arena? We just want to play bloody tanks. Now, we didn't have any themed commanders. What we did have was that garage, and I think it was 4 or 5 tanks themed around WWE. And again, in hindsight, these didn't look all that bad, but at the time it was pretty bad. So we had the Sergeant Slaughter, Stone Cold Steve Austin, which were pretty powerful at the time. Yeah, I guess you could call them powerful, OP a little bit back in the day. Now, the main problem with these tanks was basically they had their catchphrases like on the top, but they were not like in keeping with like the tank. They weren't like looked like they had been painted on or anything. They were just garishly just slapped on the side of the tank and stuff. It looked a bit weird. Looked out of place, and the Andre the Giant one had a weird, very bad rendition of his face on the side of the tank. All quite bad. But I think the main problem with it was just setting the precedence of the collaborations to come. Looking back, like I said, they weren't all that garish in comparison. And quite frankly, they're some of the better ones now, looking back. So, like I said, because it's still setting a precedence and a forced garage, and it was just a sign of things to come, I'll give you a 5 out of 10. Obviously, in hindsight, not so bad, but the garage thing was really bad, and they luckily have changed that for the future. But that moves us on to the next one, which was Hot Wheels, which did exactly the same thing, forced us to have a garage, which was the jungle at that time, where you had loops in the background. Oh, yay, because that's all we want. Now, some of these collaborations, I really, really do not understand. I'm not really sure why WWE goes with tanks. And I definitely do not think Hot Wheels goes with tanks. Now, they brought out some tanks, obviously. I don't think that, again, no commanders at this point. I don't think they revamped the commanders at this point, so you didn't have 3 stars, 2 stars, and 1 star commanders. So that's probably why, because they didn't think they could monetize that. But yeah, the tanks looked. I don't know who doesn't know, but Hot Wheels is a kid's toy, and they're not realistic cars. They're absolutely garish, bright green, fluorescent pink, with engines and exhaust pipes sticking out of everywhere, and that is pretty much what the tanks look like. We had. I can't remember the exact names of it. Roger Dodger. Oh, it was shiny blue with exhaust pipes coming out the sides. Just awful, really garish tanks that you do not see very much at all, because I don't think many people like Hot Wheels mixed with tanks, and even if they did like Hot Wheels, they certainly don't want them mixed up with their tanks. Now, I did actually earn a free one, the Tiger Shark, which looks pretty bad, but unfortunately, I actually really like the tank in general. It's pretty damn awesome, which is such a shame. But that was the best one at the time, probably the best one out of all of them anyway. I don't think there was any particularly overpowered ones in this set, so that was nice. But the Force Garage and the super shiny tanks were awful. So quite frankly, that was probably one of the worst ones we've had, unfortunately, and I would give that a 3 out of 10. And honestly, it was quite depressing at the time, because it was just like, right, okay, is this what's going to be happening from now on? Force garages, super weird collaborations that have no, relation to tanks at all. Next one I want to talk about, which is a bit of an higher note, is the Heavy Metals Heroes, which was a collaboration with comic book. I don't know if it was literally a collaboration as in a comic book was written kind of like with World of Tanks, or it was just being made and it just happened that it did a collaboration. I don't know, can't remember. But it had 2D commanders. It had now, like I said, why is it a high point? Because it just riffed off of actual real life tanks or blueprinted tanks from World War II. So that was really nice, quite honestly. So you had the Craft Panther, you had a Panzer IV, the Ferdinand version, which is actually the Fortress, which is actually worse than the Tech Tree line because it had the derp gun on. They were just normal tanks with new camos and new bits and bobs added to the tank with the 2D commanders. It was nice. It was fine. I don't think anybody really disagreed with it because it was in keeping with the game. And I didn't mind it, I've got some of the tanks myself. Got the Craft Panther, and yeah, it's not a bad choice of collaboration at all. And I really think that was quite a good choice, to be fair. Yeah, and they didn't force a garage on us, and it was just a nice collaboration there. And quite frankly, like I said, yeah, a lot of the tanks were not better than the tech tree variants, which is originally what they said about premium tanks. They weren't going to be better than the tech tree variant, but that very quickly changed, as we know. So yeah, that was nice. I'll give that a 9 out of 10. I'm more than happy for something like that to happen. It's in keeping with the game. It's fine. I like it. So yeah, Heavy Metal here. It's not much to say about that because it was actually decent. So that's 3 down. Next one, we'll go for another bad one. G.I. Joe. This came in during the Cold War. Obviously, G.I. Joe, just a kids thing. Literally just a kid thing with I don't know. It was military based, I guess. The original toys and stuff, but again, a bit like Hot Wheels. They looked absurd, really. There was a couple that looked okay because they kind of just added a color scheme to it. But unfortunately, they did start bringing out the super OP tanks with it. I think it was. Correct me if I was wrong. I think it was called the Hiss in Cold War. One of those first tanks that are just like, oh my god, this is ridiculous. What is this? And people were really complaining about how OP this tank was, and it was just like, what is going on? You can't be putting premium tanks so broken into the game. Obviously, didn't listen because the problem is obviously people see this tank and there you go. This is one of the G.I. Joe ones. It doesn't look too bad. A little bit garish, the color scheme. But you can just about get away with this one. But pretty much all the others were awful. And yeah, it was the start. Like I said, it brought a broken tank into the game. People were tired of getting killed by it, so they just bought it themselves. So that obviously, unfortunately, just encourages World of Tanks to do more awful collaborations because they think that's an endorsement, and obviously putting more OP premium tanks in so that people can buy it because they want to keep up with everyone else on the battlefield, really. So it very much a bad precedent on that one, on that front as well. So we will give that just a 3 out of 10. It was pretty awful. I guess the 3 is pretty much for the fact it was kind of military based. At least that was something. Yeah, I mean, it was really bad. And next we will go into a little bit of a higher note, not by much, but the Valkyria Chronicles. I am a big anime fan. I liked the game Valkyria Chronicles. It was military based. It was an alternate history. So you know, some of it. So it's a little bit more themed. I think obviously it was the color scheme in the original game was like watercolors, so the tanks look a bit muted, and they don't look too out of place. Again, in hindsight, right? In hindsight, is very in keeping with the game compared to the Hot Wheels. Let's face it, and the GI Joe. It's there was only the two tanks as well, so it wasn't too intrusive. They were again at the time fairly OP, although now not so much. Definitely not really, apart from maybe the medium. Because the heavy is just got such little gun depression, you're just getting, and the armor doesn't hold up these days. So yeah, just not very good. You also got two new commanders, two 2D ones, so not 3D ones. They had their own voice lines, original voice lines, which is very nice. Something a little bit different. And like I said, I'm biased in this one, guys. So if you do not like anime or anything like that, I'll probably knock a couple of points off. But I will give it a 7 out of 10 because you know I thought the tanks weren't too glaringly different on the initial look because the color schemes and stuff like that. Especially the medium. The heavy looks a little bit more out of place because it's so tall. But yeah, 7 out of 10 for that. Like I said, if you're not an anime fan or you know haven't played those games, probably knock a point or two off. But it was just two tanks. There's no forced garage. There's some couple of extra crews with new lines, which is nice. Yeah, just not bad at all, really. Like I said, 7 out of 10. And yeah, so I will be bringing you in the next one. If anybody remembers any more collaborations that I haven't got down or haven't done, please tell me. Because the next ones, in the next video, I'll be doing the bands collaboration. So I've lumped them in together. So the Sabaton and Iron Maiden, I think it was. And then we've also got Star Trek, Warhammer 40,000, Girls and Panther, and the new Turtles one. If anybody can think of any other ones that I haven't noted, then yeah, please do. Because yeah, I'll review those ones as well. I can't remember any others at this point, but yeah. Anyway, if you did like the video, give it a like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye bye.